What's going on, guys? Bart here with Tully Television. I want to thank you for stopping by today, liking, commenting, sharing, all that beautiful YouTube stuff. Is today the day I earn your subscription? If so, you hit the red subscribe bar down below. Hopefully you smash the like on this button. And we're going to get right into it now. The Last of Us Episode 6 review entitled Kin. Writers, again, Neil Druckmann, Craig Mazin, stars up Pedro Pascal as Joel, Bella Ramsey as Ellie, Gabriel Luna as Tommy, Joel's brother, Graham Greene as Marlon, Elaine Miles as Florence, and Rutini Wesley as Maria. Now, we start off picking up at the end of the last episode, in which Henry and Sam were going to go to Wyoming in search of Tommy with Joel and Bella, Ellie. Bella's the lady's real name. But the younger brother was infected, so Henry, the older brother, had to take him out, and then took his own self out because of the pain and just the brain going on overload after that. We pick up 3 months later from that time period, and they seem to have made their way pretty much to Wyoming. We see Joel and Ellie basically bonding a little bit more. We see Elle trying to learn how to hunt and shoot better with Joel's teachings. I have to say that this episode was really shot beautifully. The cinematography is great in this, and I think that the show has been pretty decent so far. But I'd have to say that this episode kind of took me out of everything, or out of that momentum that I was feeling for the show. The first 5 episodes. This seems to have pretty much had a lot of nothingness to it until they finally come across a group of people. They initially come across like a Native American couple, and we see the husband coming back from hunting rabbits, and Joel and Ellie are there with the wife. She explains to him that they kind of just snuck up on me, but they've been very nice. They haven't, hit me or anything. They just want information. And so the husband sits down and he's like, okay. And Joel says, I want you to point on the map where we are right now, because I guess he got lost. The big bad Joel that has been living and surviving for decades now with Tess up until her passing in episode 1, but all of a sudden forgets to know how to read a map. Okay, but he says to the husband, you better point to where your wife pointed, because if you don't, then you both are going to get it. And this is something I do with my wife. He said to her, the husband asked his wife, did you tell him the truth? And she was like, yes. And he said, are you telling me the truth? And she's like, yes. Because my wife and I ourselves had said, if we find ourselves in any sort of predicament, there's going to be a couple of phrases and stuff that we say that sounds like normal conversation you would have, but it really has a deeper meaning to it to enact a plan that we have already established through if I start this line of conversation with you, this means that this is what's going to happen, or at least what I'm going to attempt to do towards a guard or something like that for us to escape. Obviously, I'm not going to say those phrases and things here. What am I, dum-dum? Or maybe. But that's not the point. So she's like, yeah, and he's like, all right, well, you're here. And then he explains about passing a river of death. And Ellie's just like, ooh, river of death, river of death. In this episode, she's very, she's being very much a caveman with the cursing and ooh, yo, number one. And so anyway, they travel and they pass the river of death. Again, very beautifully shot. It looks wonderful on screen what they're shooting. But then once they pass the river of death, obviously they get surrounded by a group of people. And they say, what are you doing? And the main guy's like, what are you doing? What's your purpose around here? And he's like, we're just trying to walk through. I'm just, we don't mean any harm. We just want to pass through. And the guy was like, all right. Is it just you two? And he's like, yeah, just us, man. It's just us. We're not trying to, do anything other than, what their initial mission was. And so they pull out a German Shepherd that's able to detect the virus in you. So, of course, Joel passes the test through the dog. Tension builds as you think that he's going to start barking when he smells Ellie's blood. Excuse me. But he doesn't for some reason. I guess through the grace of luck. And then they're like, all right, that bought you 10 seconds. What is it exactly you're doing here? He says, I'm looking for my brother. That's why we're here. This woman comes forward and is like, well, what's your name? And he was like, Joel. And then that's when they bring them to their community. That's when he sees his brother Tommy. They reunite. He finds out Tommy's been with them for a while after he left the Fireflies and was unable to contact Joel through the radio because the community doesn't want anyone really using the radio to contact anybody out in the outside world. Even though Tommy has established himself there, marrying someone, the woman who Joel initially talked to, and getting her pregnant. So I'm kind of curious how mistrusting is this community with someone who's already established himself there sounds like for about a year or two now at this point, getting married and having a child, or about to have a child with someone. You're not going to let him use the radio to at least contact his brother to let him know that I'm alive. This is where I'm at. I can't tell you where I'm at because this community is very protective, but I'm safe. Nothing like that. That's kind of poor on Tommy's part. Poor excuse. I wouldn't accept that excuse from my brother offhand. I'd be happy to see him, but I'd also be pissed. Like, you're letting me think you're dead, or the worst thing. Why? For these guys? And they bring up Tommy brings up again the things that he had to do, and Joel was like, we both did it. What are you talking about? We had to do these things, man. What? Yes, it's not an easy life to do what we had to do, but we had to protect ourselves, Tommy made Joel feel like crap for not getting over the death of his daughter. And again, Tommy seems to be really just an idiot in this episode. Ellie and the brother's wife kind of talk, and they get to the wife is telling her, like, do you even know who Joel is or whatever, and she's like, if you're trying to tell me that he used to kill people and innocent people to survive, yeah, I know that. And then she happens to bring up Joel's daughter to her, which brings up a conversation later between Joel and Ellie. I don't think that was necessarily the wife's place to tell her about Joel's daughter dying in his arms like that. That's kind of like a really private and family thing. And I don't think that Ellie was on that level yet of needing to know that. She just needed to know that Joel was there to protect her, and he has been, keeping his word to Tess. And a weird thing I found also is that when the wife allowed Ellie to shower, because this community's got electricity, it's like really a small village, untouched. They're getting electricity through the dam that's a few miles away. But they giving Ellie fresh clothes and stuff after the shower. She winds up giving her a diaphragm, which is like really an odd thing to give a 14-year-old girl in an apocalypse. That, I mean, yes, she's at an age where she should know kind of like a little bit more maybe about what's going on with her body and why she's feeling how she's feeling in those regards. Yes, I'm not trying to be ignorant about it. I raised my brother and sister. They're in their mid to late 20s now. I myself was in my mid to late 20s when I took them in to raise them. So I understand how it is to have to explain to teenagers, especially a young girl, coming from a man even, to say certain things are going to be this and that and this and that. But when it came to controlling the birthing process, I wasn't good with that until she hit about 16. Because I felt like I'm starting to realize, like, you can only hold teenagers' curiosities back so long about wanting to explore that topic. You know what I mean? Hopefully with another teenager. You know what I mean? And yes, in the apocalypse and in the real world, anything can happen to a teenage girl by a man who's not going to take no for an answer. But I don't think that still means that they should walk around with that. Just my opinion. I'm not saying I have the right opinion, and I'm not saying that for any teenage girl who has those at a younger age is wrong or doing something wrong. I'm not saying that. I just found it odd that they had to concentrate on that in this show. I don't know. I'm going to continue on from that. At some point, Tommy goes to Joel again and apologizes for what he said. He was like, that was very insensitive of me. I just, it's a wave of emotions and all that. And at this point, Joel begins to break down and cry. This is a very different Joel. I'm starting to realize from the games that he was so stoic and kind-hearted, but a pillar of strength. And maybe he was going through mental pain but he continued to stay strong for everybody, despite him wanting to break down. But in this version of Joel, he does break down. He comes to tears. He says he's too weak to continue the mission. Ellie happens to overhear him. Tommy, he explains to Tommy how she's immune. He was like, it's been months since she's been legitimately bitten. She has not changed. And this is why I need to bring her to the Fireflies. Because where they initially went, or where they're initially getting sent, it will show that they're not there anymore, so they're going to have to figure out where to go from there for the next couple of episodes. But finally, Tommy accepts the mission to bring her there to the Firefly headquarters. Ellie and Joel have a conversation about Joel's daughter. Joel gets very upset, and he's like, this shit where we're separating our ways and this and that. You don't know anything about loss. And Ellie is like, no, I do. Stop cutting yourself off. So at this point, it looks like Tommy will be bringing Ellie to the Fireflies headquarters, but the next morning when things calm down, Joel does say to her, I'll give you the choice to make, and she's like, let's go. They do touch on how communism works for this community. And in a small community, maybe pooling your resources together works. But as we learn, trying to do that on a nationwide scale does not work. There is really a lot of examples of how it doesn't work. A lot of faulty governments that do a lot of horrible things to people have come out of those type of governments. So I'm a little surprised that between Ant-Man and this episode that they're really pushing communism out into Hollywood. It's really odd to me that they're doing that because, again, that's been associated primarily with a lot of bad things. But they continue their journey onto the Firefly headquarters. They come across monkeys that were being tested on that a laboratory released. They come across as they're there, they see where the Fireflies might have traveled to, but then they hear a group of men outside. They try to sneak to the horse. Joel takes one out, but while taking him out, he gets stabbed in the gut. I don't know why he takes it out, but he does, and he starts leaking. They get on the horse, Bella's shooting off, and at some point, they're too far away from Tommy's settlement to even go back there. So, they're in the middle of nowhere. Joel falls off the horse, and it appears as if he's going to pass away. And that's where the episode ends, with a version of Taking a Ride with My Best Friend plays in the back. So it looks like it's up to Ellie to figure out how to save the day. And that's where we end this review. This episode I did not like as much as the other episodes. I could tell again that Pedro and Bella Ramsey are trying to do their best with the material given to them. But the writing for this was really off-putting. Again, visually it looks great, but there was a couple things in here that I did not like what they were trying to push, and that's okay. It's okay if you like it, and it's okay if I don't like it. I'm going to give this episode a 6 out of 10. And to put that in comparison, I've been giving the other episodes 8s and 9s. I even gave that standalone episode of, I just 8s and 9s throughout up until this episode. Is a 6 for me. I did not really enjoy this episode at all. and kind of a disappointment for me for this. But let me hear what your comments are down below. Don't forget to like, share, comment, all that beautiful YouTube stuff. And until next time, peace, schnookums.